Business of Esports podcast is sponsored by Esports Entertainment Group, a leading esports and online gambling company. For more information, go check them out at esportsentertainmentgroup.com.
There's so many like benefits and great things about gaming that I've always thought, and I've always thought it brought people together. I actually even think that gaming, you know, when I was a kid, how a father and son would bond would, you know, you go to a baseball game or you go fishing, right? And it's like, I look at today's day, like fathers and sons or daughters and sons, or I mean, daughters and fathers, or even mothers, right? Like it's a great new way to build bonds with your kids. Like, especially like single parents, like say like, you know, your kid lives with your mom, the mother or the father. The other one can get a console or a PC. And like, that's how you're building a relationship with your kid when you're not with them. Hey, let's jump on and play and go to Warzone. You know what I mean? Or let's go on and play Madden together. Like, I don't even think parents are looking at that as a way. Still to this day, parents are looking at gaming as like a waste of time. They're like, oh, you should get out in the streets and have fun. You should go be more active. You should go do they're still not really realizing like, no, this is a fucking career. Just like if you sent me to piano or football since I was 6, you know what I mean? But guess what? I could probably make way more money gaming than I could freaking being an archer or going to karate. You know what I mean? But like, but you want me to go there 3 times a week, but you don't want me to game. So I think that parents really need to realize that not only is this a potential career, but it's also a way to build friendships and camaraderie and understand other people and other cultures and other personalities. You know, the only thing that's problematic is the toxicity. If we can get rid of that somehow, it would be like the perfect world to live in.
Clinton, how did music, because there's parallels. You mentioned, I had another question I was going to ask you, but then you talked about parents, you know, getting on the gaming bandwagon. And, you know, we've talked on the podcast about this. We've talked on the live stream about this, how gaming, there are research studies showing it's good for kids, right? It helps them socially. There's all kinds of positive benefits, yet there's still a lot of resistance to it.
Right.
You lived through a music industry and a hip hop industry where I feel like that genre was vilified, right? It was all like,
yep.
Hey, this listening to this music makes your kids violent, right? And
right.
And how did hip hop, I guess, get beyond that? And is there a lesson for the gaming industry in terms of how to move past this sort of false thinking?
Yeah, that's another deep question that could go on for an hour. So you can just go back to marketing, right? There'll be times, for instance, all you guys, both the Prophet and the Professor, along with Jimmy Barata, have all seen ads in your life. We need a middle name for Jimmy. We've all seen ads or commercials or catchphrases that annoyed the shit out of us, right? Because they just ran so many ads, or a song that plays on the radio. Like, I freaking hate this song, right? But it's the art of marketing. And then once you hear something so much, it's ingrained in your head. And despite if you hate it or love it, you know it, right? So That's kind of what happened with hip hop. It was just kept being forced and forced and forced and forced. And you became desensitized to the things you didn't like about it, and you couldn't beat it. And when so many people are championing it, you can't fight it anymore. And I think, you know, a lot goes with gaming as well. Like when more and more people are finding, especially a younger generation, this is the first generation where the fathers are listening to the same music, wearing the same clothes, streaming the same shows on Netflix, playing the same video games as their kids. You know, prior to me, my generation, like my parents would look at me doing hip hop and they were still part of like, that's not music. You know what I mean? Because they didn't relate to my generation. My generation invented this generation, the clothes they're wearing, the brands that they're a part of, the things that they think that they're doing that's original. Nah, B, we did that 20 years ago. You're copying us and you don't even know. You know what I mean? So like, that's why like I think the generation gaps are closing and a lot of things are being more acceptable, because I think my generation, and especially the generation that's going to come after me, will totally relate and understand, because they came up on the internet and they know what's cool and what's not cool, as opposed to the parents that were, when the kids were out in the street and they were doing the teenage thing, or they were hanging out with their friends, and their parents are like so old, they don't even know what the hottest new trends are, or the cool slang terms, or the hot new artists. Now, like, we know that, you know what I mean? So I can come in and say to my son, like, hey man, did you hear this? He'd be like, oh yeah, I ain't feeling that. You should check this out. Or like I'll come in my son about, man, those sneakers are lit. And I'm like, damn, where'd you get those from? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it wasn't like that before, but now it is. So I think now we're all becoming one, right? And man, I can just keep going. I can see like the 7 different ways to go with this conversation right now. And I don't want to like just be all over the place, which I kind of already feel like I am. But yeah, I just think that the more it becomes dominant, the more people that talk about it, the more people that wave the flag, the more you can't fight it. And then the more you have to, like, goes back to the beginning of what I was saying. It's like either you ride the wave, you create a wave, or